During the coronavirus pandemic, these pictures went all over the world. Hundreds of babies born to surrogate mothers were stranded in Ukraine. Reproductology has evolved into a global business.
On your life, so it starts today.
For many, surrogacy is a happy opportunity. However, this business has a dark side. This is actually very difficult. What does the million-dollar business with reproductive specialists involved represent in Ukraine? Kiev, the capital of Ukraine. In front of you is the building of a former hotel, which now belongs to the Clinic for Reproductive Medicine Biotech.com. At the end of April, the coronavirus pandemic triggered a crisis. About 70 babies were stranded in the clinic. Ukrainian surrogate mothers went home to their families, and the intermediary company that organised the delivery had to take care of the newborns until foreign parents came for them. As you enter our atmosphere, our baby room, you feel sorry for babies. To be honest, we feel sorry for children. We try to pay maximum attention to each child, but we will not replace their parents. We will not replace parents. Babies want to be picked up. Babies want attention. Babies want warmth. All these children were born to Ukrainian surrogate mothers. Foreign parents purchased pregnancy as a service from Biotech.com. The company undertakes the whole process. Biotech.com published a video with children trying to convince Ukrainian and foreign governments to open boundaries for parents. And only 2 months later, something started to happen. A group of parents from Argentina came to pick up the babies, after one of the local businessmen managed to organize a flight on a private plane. Biotech.com, whose reputation depends on public opinion, took advantage of the situation. The company organized a press conference, during which the parents handed over their children. In the light of cameras, Argentine couple Andrea and Fernando, for the first time, picked up their son, Ignacio.
And your life, completely different. It starts today. The first time that I had him face to face, I couldn't believe that. Such a big emotion. Yeah, I won't forget that. And when I see on the TV, I cry too. I cry again anytime. Yeah, so nice, so nice. Yes.
Biotech.comiin tulee lapsettomia pariskuntia kaikista maailmankolkista.
Childless couples from all over the world come to Biotech.com. Couples must be married and provide a medical certificate confirming that they cannot have children. Same-sex couples and unmarried people cannot use surrogacy in Ukraine.
We were trying to have our own baby for 9 years, 12 treatments. I had 6 pregnancies that didn't work. And when we were 45, the doctor said, the problem is not that you get pregnant. The problem is that you cannot have a healthy pregnancy and we don't find the reasons. Please look at other alternatives because you are in critical age. We thought that we couldn't get this dream, and we start checking adoption options. But in our country, adoption is very hard. It could be 2 years, could be 10 years, or never ever. That was not a possibility. So we get noticed about surrogacy. It was very new for us. We didn't have any reference about it. We got it in the internet. And at the very beginning, we said, oh, that's interesting, but it was very difficult for us in terms of economic reasons because this kind of treatment is very expensive. But with the help of our family, friends, credits, bank credits, loans, savings, everything, we said, okay, we can move forward. And we start taking options.
Pariskunnat maksavat noin 4-60 000 euroa sijaissynnytystä.
Couples pay between €40,000 and €60,000 for a surrogacy package. Egg donation is usually included in the program. Some of the money goes to surrogate mothers, some to intermediary companies, and there are quite a few of them in Ukraine.
We take many destinations, United States, Canada, Georgia, and Ukraine. But then we had the chance to meet other couples that had babies in Ukraine. They explained all the process, and we said, that's the option. And we are proud that we decided that because that exceeded our expectations from the very beginning. And when we arrived here in Ukraine, it was really like to be at home because people is friendly. So we really adopt Ukraine as our second nationality.
Biotech.com on 10 vuodessa kasvanut erittäin suureksi yritykseksi.
Biotech.com has grown into a large company in 10 years.
Klinikoita on
For example, this territory where Biotech.com clinics are located are based in a prestigious area of Kiev. This is a very expensive place. And all these buildings were built by direct order of Biotech.com. In addition, the company bought out an entire hotel to maintain babies.
Biotech.comin perustaja on tehnyt hämmästyttävän uran. Moldovasta tulleen
The founder of the company has had an incredible career. Albert Chochilovsky came from Moldova. For the rest, very little is known about his past. The authorities have launched an investigation on suspicion of fraud and human trafficking. Nevertheless, Tochilovsky has not yet been convicted of crimes in Ukraine. People from 30 countries come to us, from South America and from the USA. We also have patients from Europe and from China. In fact, the whole world is coming to us. Biotech.com is the world's largest company in the industry. Every year, about 500 children are born within the walls of the clinic. The potential for expansion is huge, since many people think about children very late. In developed countries, population growth has almost stopped. Patients cannot come because of these restrictions. Many patients cannot come. There is no transport communication with some countries. The average figure came out to be 500 children. But it is clear that after COVID, this figure will grow. I think in 10 years it will increase, not 10, not 100, but 1,000 times. Despite the coronavirus pandemic, there are people at biotech.com. Egg donors, surrogate mothers and future parents come to the clinic. The heart of the clinic is in its basement. In this laboratory, embryos are created with the help of special devices and are later transferred to a surrogate mother's uterus. Eggs, sperm, and already made embryos are stored in these lockets. Anyone, we can try this. You see, it's holding its head a little to the side, looking to the right. This is good. This is indifferent. This is fine. This one is so-so. Whichever I choose will be, let's say, a dad. Fertilization is carried out by the IVF method. Usually eggs of a Ukrainian donor or patient's eggs, and a future father's sperm are used. Spermatozoa are injected into the egg with a microneedle. 5 days later, the embryo is transferred into the uterine cavity of a surrogate mother. See the size? It's an embryo at the blastocyst stage, not very visible. This is how thin the transparent shell is, which protects it. That is, in the future, it will break this transparent shell and get outside. Then it is implanted in the woman's endometrium, and this is the embryoblast, this nubbin. And from this embryoblast, a human is created. And from a trophectoderm, embryonic covers and a placenta are formed. After a week or two, they find out if fertilization was successful, whether a surrogate mother became pregnant. With the help of modern technologies, the sex of a child can be determined at the earliest stages. Those couples can choose the gender of a future baby. It depends on nationality. For some reason, the Chinese, they always choose mainly in 80% boys. Ukraine has gradually turned into an empire of surrogacy. This was not a deliberate policy of the state. Many customers began to turn to Ukraine after popular destinations in Asia, India and Thailand banned commercial surrogacy. Since this industry is associated with criminal activity, in particular human trafficking. At the local elections in Kiev, this topic is not particularly raised. However, many politicians are demanding more stringent laws. The great tragedy of the Ukrainian people is that we have now become the epicenter of surrogacy. Ukrainians are forced to go looking for work in Poland, the Czech Republic. Earned by means of surrogacy, these are exclusively very poor people. This topic is not much discussed in the Ukrainian information space, but it is necessary to talk about it. It is necessary to know about it for as many Ukrainians as possible. Ukrainian legislation allows commercial activities. However, this is where it ends. In the field of surrogacy and egg donation, there are serious problems. Since no one controls this process, there is no authority protecting the rights of surrogate mothers. Sometimes even children are left without legal protection. I am taking the night train to the southeast of Ukraine.
Olen tullut lastenkotiin Zaporizhiaan tapaamaan 4-vuotista orpoa.
I came to an orphanage in Zaporizhia to see a 4-year-old orphan. The girl is called Brizzy, although her real name, given at birth, is Bridget. A surrogate mother gave birth to her here in Zaporizhia, in the perinatal centre. She had a twin brother who died immediately after birth. She was born on the 25th week of pregnancy. This is deeply premature, weighing 870 grams. Now Bridget should live in California and not be an orphan in Ukraine. But when her American parents heard that the girl was born prematurely, they abandoned the child and decided not to come to Ukraine. Initially, nobody suggested she would survive, but they started to fight for her life. Nobody gave any predictions whether she would survive or not, but they did their best for the baby to stay alive, and she did it. She managed it. The first week when Brizzy's life hung in the balance, Nurse Marina was on duty at the hospital. Marina was the first to notice that the girl was not deaf or blind, that she's developing. A strong bond has formed between the nurse and Brizzy. Since then, Marina has been visiting the girl every day, free from work. Let me take it. We do with her everything just like with a healthy child. Play and sing and learn something with her and try to walk. We try to do something new, some poems, songs. She is a very easygoing child. While she used to say just one word earlier, just one word and that's it, now she can complete sentences. She can easily put together 3 to 4 words. This is a camera. This is a camera. Beep, beep, beep. The camera sings. The camera is big. Bridget's birth was organised by Biotech.com, on demand of an American couple. The director of the clinic remembers this incident. This was a mistake. I should have gone to the US Embassy, and the embassy would register this couple as the baby's parents. This is only my mistake. Let's go. No? Look how beautiful she is. Bridget would get US citizenship if Biotech.com applied to the embassy.
We're in love with her. And the first day were heavy because I used to sleep 8 hours a day. But from the last days, I don't know if I slept 8 hours.
Patricia ja Gustavo harjoittelevat vanhemmuutta. Vain viikko on kulunut siitä, kun
Patricia and Gustavo try themselves as parents. It's only been 1 week since an Argentine couple first picked up their daughter, Sol. They have tried all possible fertility treatments, until one day a couple told them about the surrogacy service in Ukraine.
It was so easy. In Argentina, the regulation is not ready for this treatment.
Ukrainan suosiota selittää maan lainsäädäntö. Argentiinassa,
The popularity of Ukraine is explained by its legislation. In Argentina, as in many other countries in the world, a woman giving birth automatically becomes a legal mother. Whereas, in Ukraine, legal parents can be nominated in advance. Before pregnancy, a surrogate mother signs a contract according to which she renounces the claim of the child. After that, a surrogate mother cannot change her mind and keep the child.
Tämä lainkohta
It is the law that
mahdollistaa
opens up the possibility of wide commercial activities in the field of surrogacy. A married couple from Argentina are already thinking about their second child.
Ay. Okay. We are talking about it. We didn't decide it yet. It will be very good for her to have a brother or sister. We're a bit old. We don't want that she be alone.
Pari viikkoa myöhemmin Patricia ja Augusto ovat tavanneet tyttärensä sijaissynnyttäjän.
Although they didn't have to, a couple of weeks later, Patricia and Augusto visited Natalia, a surrogate mother of their daughter.
Esa parte es hermosa, porque este video es el final.
This is a wonderful moment. At the end of the meeting, we hug. Natalia leaves. And before that, she kisses Sol on the forehead, says goodbye and leaves. An incredible woman. Wonderful person. When I met them, I calmed down. They seemed sincere people, and for some reason, I am sure that Sol will grow up in a loving family. Natalia is 26 years old. She and her husband already have 2 children. The eldest is 7. According to Ukrainian legislation, a woman willing to become a surrogate mother must have her own children. When my son was 2, I gave birth to a daughter. And then, a kindergarten, something like that. I worked in a store as a seller. I am on my own with 2 children. My husband is working abroad. Many people travel from small towns in western Ukraine to neighbouring countries, looking for a better paying job. Natalia's husband, the father of her children, has been working in Poland for a long time. He's not at home for months, sometimes for half the year. Children miss him. I miss him. I want to be together somehow. I just wanted to move to Poland so that the children have a future, and therefore decided on surrogacy. Natalia works as a cashier in a store, but the salary is very small. Ukraine is recognized as the poorest country in Europe. 5,000? Not more? We rent a flat, 1,500 a month. Well, and still there are light, water, utility payments. It's about 2,000. Kindergarten too. 2 children in kindergarten is expensive. And so there was no option to just sit here. I had to go earn money. Having doubted her husband agreed to surrogacy, he understood that this was the only opportunity to fulfill the family's dream of moving to Poland. Well, he understood that this is not my child, that I just carry it. Surrogate mothers are usually paid between 12,000 and 14,000 euros. Surrogate mothers undergo medical examinations throughout the year and take hormonal drugs. In the last months of pregnancy, they usually live in Kiev. Natalia received compensation in excess of her 5-year salary, 400 euros. It was the first payment. Then the second payment was 2,000 euros, then 6. And in the end, there were 4,600. 13,000 euros.
Ukrainassa Briisin tulevaisuus on synkkä. 7-vuotiaana hän joutuu kehitysvammaisten...
For Bridget, the future in Ukraine is unpleasant. At the age of 7, she will be transferred to an institution for children with developmental delays, and by the age of 18 to a nursing home. Marina hoped until the last minute that Bridget's American parents would change their minds when they see that the girl is developing. However, it turned out differently. Marina saw shocking photos from California on Facebook. They had other children with the help of a surrogate mother. They have other children. They got them after Brizzy. I can't say with 100% certainty, but yes. I guess they don't think anything about it. I think they don't care at all. Brizzy's case is a tragic example of how vulnerable children born to surrogate mothers are. The girl's story clearly demonstrates another problem of assisted reproduction: brain injury. There are problems with childbirth. There are problems in gynecology in general. They were, are, and will arise. It doesn't matter if it is surrogacy, artificial insemination, they will arise. Clinics are trying to maximize the chances of pregnancy. Therefore, 3 embryos are implanted into the surrogate mother's uterus at once. In many cases, surrogate mothers carry twins, which increases the risk of premature birth and head injuries. The director of the clinic acknowledges this problem. More often, difficulties arise because of premature births. Yes, problems arise. We will not avoid this. Especially regarding IVF, nature for some reason made these children a little weaker. The private clinic Biotech.com carries out procedures for the infertility treatment only. Childbirth takes place in state maternity hospitals. In the poor country, the level of medicine is low, especially in regional hospitals. The girl gave birth just not in Kiev. Our medicine, unfortunately, is a little worse in those villages, and it was the premature birth and the early water breaking. And in Ukraine, unfortunately, the mortality rate is high among children. Well, it is increased. For example, there are not enough incubators for premature babies. Therefore, Biotech.com wants surrogate mothers to come to the capital to give birth.
Ukraina on maa sodassa ja se kurjistaa taloutta.
Ukraine is at war, which is undermining the economy. People come to the St. Michael's Cathedral to commemorate their relatives. The death toll of Ukrainian soldiers reaches 4,000. In 2014, Russia invaded Crimea. At the same time, the troops under the Russian command unleashed a war in Donbass. There are 1.5 million internally displaced persons living in Ukraine. Due to Russian occupation, they are unable to return home to eastern Ukraine. And there are many refugees from Donbass among surrogate mothers.
Serhii Antonov on yksi tunnetuimmista liikemiehistä lapsettomuusbisneksessä.
Sergei Antonov is one of the most famous businessmen in the field of reproductive medicine.
Media haastattelee
He has been working as a lawyer in this area for a long time and often gives interviews to foreign media. Antonov has many companies. The most famous is Ertza, which acts as an intermediary in organizing egg donation and surrogacy.
This woman price for her egg is 6,000 and this woman 1,200. Why is there such a big difference here?
Это просто два донора, один категории A.
They're just two donors.
Рассматривает обязательно
One of category A.
и
This category requires higher education,
и
so she is a lawyer.
какие-то особенности вот она
And plus, some peculiarities here.
в частности
She has a model appearance, and in particular, sport and dance abilities.
здоровая, она не имеет высшего
In this case, this is an ordinary woman who is healthy. She has no higher education, but meets the medical criteria.
Luovuttajan munasoluja sijaissynnytyksissä.
Couples usually use a surrogate mother's egg,
valokuvia ja videoita.
and they receive very detailed information about donors, including photos and videos. People from the Scandinavian countries ask for girls of the Scandinavian type. Basically, we even have profiles of, for example, donors from Jewish origin with an Ashkenazi DNA test. Besides, we have many Asian donors from Kazakhstan.
Munasolujen luovutus on jopa sijaissynnytystä suurempi bisnes. Välittäjät etsivät
Egg donation is an even bigger business than surrogacy.
asiakkaiden toivomuksen.
Intermediaries are constantly looking for donors which would meet the requirements of customers. A few years ago, there was a customer from Monaco, and he brought photos of his first love. He said that he would like a donor to look like this girl, which was in the photo. He was ready to pay 60,000 euros for such a donor.
Myös munasolun luovutus, kuten sijaissynnytys, on raskasta naisille.
Egg donation is a huge burden on a woman's body, since it requires taking hormonal drugs. In Ukraine, everything is squeezed out of good donors. Many donors from Ukraine apply 4 times and even 8 times, since we have 8 times restrictions by law.
Kuulemme huolestuttavasta tapauksesta. Sijaissynnyttäjä on ilmeisesti sairastunut.
We heard about a tragic incident. One of the surrogate mothers developed disease after a miscarriage.
Sijaissynnyttäjiä
We decided to meet with Sveta Borovskaya, a representative of a small assistance group for surrogate mothers. We had such a situation with a girl which went for a surrogacy program. She has very serious health complications.
sijaissynnytysklinikan laiminlyönnit veivät naisen
According to Sveta, the woman ended up in the hospital because of the clinic's negligence. Unfortunately, doctors made a mistake. Let's just say, without controlling the process of cleaning and exit of the embryo, she got clots left. She had parts of the embryos inside. They just started to decompose, and accordingly, she can lose the uterus. We go to Cherkasy to bring a woman to Kiev. Here she will have to undergo a physical examination the next day. Unfortunately now, every minute, every second is very important. I don't know, a day to decide what to do with her, what we can do and how we can help her. I don't know how realistic it is to save the uterus in her situation, but still there is hope. Therefore, I believe that we must grab this chance.
Svetan tausta on kiinnostava. Vuosia sitten hän oli itsekin sijaissynnyttäjä.
Sveta's story is unusual. Many years ago, she was a surrogate mother. Now Sveta is engaged in the business in the field of reproductive medicine. However, in her free time, she helps surrogate mothers who are in trouble. In general, I approve of surrogacy, but the main problem is, even if there are laws that will be adopted and defined, it will not change the violations that were, are, and will be committed. That is, there will still be agencies, clinics, that will violate.
Svetan mielestä alan ongelma on lukuisat vilpilliset yritykset. Hän on kuullut
Sveta believes that the problem is a huge number of unscrupulous organizations. She heard that in some cases, surrogate mothers even died. Information about this is difficult to obtain. Organizations pay relatives to remain silent. We have heard that such cases occurred in a clinic with a year interval, but this did not appear anywhere and information was impossible to find. Because, well, it's clear that money plays a role, and that compensation was paid to the surrogate mother's family. These risks and consequences can be completely different. It's clear we don't want to think about it, that it could be ectopic pregnancy, organ loss, God forbid disability or death. But this exists, unfortunately. We do not reject it. That is, this is a risky job. This is probably one of the most risky jobs.
Kun saavumme Cherkassiin, odotan ulkona sen aikaa, kun Sveta noutaa sijaissynnyttäjä.
We arrived in Cherkasy. I waited on the street while Sveta went up for a surrogate mother, Olga. These are emotions I will speak later. I will calm down because I will cry again. Stand, walk, it's easier for me. And when I sit, everything inside the uterus burns and tears. Such pain as during childbirth, as labour itself. This kind of pain, I take these pills. I don't know, I'm ready for anything, just to have this pain removed, to pass this unbearable pain.
Olha kertoo tarinansa. 2 kertaan hän on ryhtynyt sijaissynnyttäjäksi.
Olga told her story. She was a surrogate mother twice. The first time, the family needed money, since her husband was disabled due to a stroke. For the second time, the mother was sent to the Czech Republic for IVF, and everything went wrong. This time, the family needed funds for drugs to treat epilepsy in their 7-year-old son. Drugs are ordered from Germany, through intermediaries who bring them here. We do not have them in pharmacies in Ukraine, and they are very expensive. Olga trusted lawyer Sergei Antonov, as his company, Ertza, is quite famous. Olga got pregnant, but the embryo died at the 6th week. The problems began because the doctors did not provide adequate medical care. Romanova immediately said that we would not do vacuum aspiration abortion, as it will be easier for me. They said there would be a medical abortion. After that, Olga's condition deteriorated sharply. She had to be treated with her own money. There was no help from the clinic of reproductive medicine. Did you hear me? Olga Nikolaevna, we will not do anything to you. I went to the room, sat on the couch, and literally 10 minutes after our conversation I started bleeding. At first I didn't understand what was wrong with me. I got up in a pool of blood. My children were shocked. They saw it all. I ran to the bathroom, My child even shouted, "Mom, will you live?" Olga's incapacitated husband had to take out a loan for his wife's treatment. Erza paid only a small amount of the costs. Basically, I was going to earn money for my son's treatment and medications for my husband, and as a result my husband cares for me. This is my story. They love their mum to such an extent, and their mother, unfortunately, is now in such a state. And there is the issue of her health and life. The eyes of the frightened husband because of a failure to understand how it can be so. And, of course, he worries about her. I am an ordinary person, basically as all those who are now trying to help are. I really hope that we will be able to achieve justice. This is actually very difficult. Bad directors, bad agencies are to blame for what we have now. Such situations, they do occur.
Seuraavana aamuna tapaan Olhan sairaalan edustalla Kiovassa.
The next morning we met Olga at the entrance to the hospital. A reputable gynecologist has good news. Her uterus can be saved. Ultrasound shows endometrial roughness. Well, what makes me very, very happy is that he says this diagnosis is being removed. This is what makes me very happy, because I was told in Cherkasy that this trophoblastic disease may be present. That's why we weren't very positive. I even called my husband with good news. I said that the diagnosis is most likely to not be confirmed. There is no such certain diagnosis, so I do not have to do chemo. This makes me very happy.
Olhan sijaissynnytys järjestettiin Serhii Antonovin Irtsa Ukraine yrityksen toimesta.
Olga signed a surrogacy contract with Irtsa Ukraine, a company of Sergei Antonov. In the same office where I interviewed him, we call Sergei Antonov and want to ask him why his company did not help Olga when, as a result of a miscarriage, her health deteriorated. Hello? Hello, Sergei. Good afternoon. This is Katja. Remember we filmed you for a Finnish TV channel last week? Yes, I'm listening. Sergei, I wanted to ask you. My assistant Katja carries out the conversation, since she communicated with Sergei the most. Antonov remembers the case with Olga, but denies everything. He accuses Olga of extorting money by coming up with non-existent health problems. What threat? She made it up. She has no medical reason. She demands to be hospitalized and to have her uterus amputated, you know? But doctors don't want to. Sergei does not even recognize that Olga was given drugs to terminate pregnancy after a miscarriage. She didn't have a medical abortion. She had a miscarriage that happened with bleeding, you see? As a result, Sergei Antonov denies that he and his company are involved in this, although the contract was signed at his office. I tell you right away, they do not have a contract with Irtsa, so Irtsa will not comment on it. I am an Irtsa lawyer. If this will spread, we'll go to court. I warn you immediately. Okay? Thank you very much. Well, that's really funny. I have all the documents and Daniel bought me tickets then. As I flew away, everything was registered on him. So you got everything signed with his parents, right? Daniel as a representative. Daniel and I were in the office in Irtsa. We signed.
Päätämme mennä juristin pakeille neuvonpitoon. Myös Olena Babic.
We decided to seek legal advice.
Mutta hän on myös
Elena Babic is also in the business of reproductive medicine. In addition, she is a recognized lawyer. What is the issue in this agreement? If a surrogate mother signs this agreement, if something happens, she does not have the opportunity to address her parents first because there is no other contact information, as well as no recognition of them as a party to the contract.
taitavasti hyväksi
The contract is full of ambiguities.
ohjaa
The basis of a standard surrogacy agreement is skillfully used. However, the compiler is missing important information about the intermediary company, agent, and relatives. The contract leaves the surrogate mother alone with possible problems. That is, if something happens, it is very difficult for a surrogate mother to protect her rights because she has absolutely no one to appeal to. But if everything is fine, then all will be paid. She will give birth to a child. And if everything is not okay, then getting the money, if the representative, for example, says, "I know nothing," it becomes almost impossible for her. According to Elena Babic, fraud occurs in Ukraine because the field of reproductive medicine is not controlled or regulated in any way. There are a lot of agencies in Ukraine in general. Some of them work in the legal field. They are registered, concluding proper contracts with surrogate mothers and parents. They make the appropriate payments. But there are a lot of agencies that unfortunately do not worry about the rules and rights of a surrogate mother, nor for the rights of future parents.
Olkoon asiasta mitä mieltä tahansa, kaupalliset sijaissynnytykset näyttävät tulleen
Whatever we think about it, commercial surrogacy will continue to exist.
eettisiä näkökulmia. Voiko raskaus olla työtä?
Reproductology poses difficult ethical questions.
Kiellettyä, eli
Could carrying a baby be a job?
kansainvälinen yhteisö
Can egg donation be considered an illegal organ trade?
suojelisi syntyviä vauvoja.
The international community is trying to develop a legal framework to prevent child trafficking and the exploitation of surrogate mothers.
Järjestelmä.
A global legal system has already been developed for inter-country adoption.
Ja tarjontaa ketterät liikemiehet
Due to the growing childlessness, the demand is increasing, which some nimble entrepreneurs are ready to cover, like Albert Tochilovsky from Moldova. About himself, he tells only that he has always been fond of science fiction. For him, surrogacy is the first step towards a revolution in the field of reproductive medicine and the creation of an artificial womb in which children would be raised entirely by machines. He even tried to achieve the adoption of a law on ectogenesis in Ukraine. We have no problem with patients, and there will be more and more of them in the world. The question of lack of surrogate mothers will only arise. Therefore, if the law on ectogenesis would pass, then I think in 5-6 years the technology would appear, with which raising a child without a mother would be possible.
Sinceramente, nosotros creemos que todo esto es una situación, lo que se dice win-win.
We believe that in this situation everyone wins. There is a benefit for both sides. Natalia did her job with great love. She did a noble deed, and thanks to this, she can now be with her children.
Pudo estar en todo momento con sus hijos.
Ой, забрали там чи ж. Ні. Я знала, що заберуть. Ми всі це
Oh,
знаємо.
doubts about picking a baby?
Я знала, що
No.
мама і
I knew they would pick it.
мене чекає.
We all know who is going for it.
Заради яких я
I knew she had a mom and a dad,
Тому я
and my children are waiting for me at home.
жила легко.
For them, I decided on it. So I went through it easily. But the second time, I don't know. I do not want to do this yet, for sure.
Marina on pitkään harkinnut Breezin adoptoimista, mutta se ei ole realistista.
Marina was thinking about adopting Brizzy for a long time, but this is rather unrealistic for a single woman of her age. I want it. I dream about it. Yes, I dream about it. But it's hard. It's a very hard topic for me because
Marina on juuri kuullut sinänsä iloisen uutisen, että ulkomaalainen pariskunta haluaa...
Marina has just heard the good news. A couple from abroad want to adopt Brizzy. I don't know how I'll be here without her, but there is no other way out. There is simply no other way out. And if it is a good family and they love her there, and there she'll be fine, this is the best option that can be. I can handle it. That's okay.
Вирячала сина.